Sonoma County Transit will probably show up, but I think we could, oh, and Charles is online. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with introductions. Starting in the room, I'm Dana Trey with SCTA, RCPA, and I'll pass it off to my left.
Thank you. Jared Hall, Transit Manager, Petaluma Transit.
David Davenport, Principal Planner, Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District.
Hi, Emily Betts, Planning Manager for SMART.
Rachel E., Deputy Director, Transit, City of Santa Rosa.
Chris Barney, Director of Planning, ICT, RCPA.
And in the back,
James Cameron, SCTA, RCPA. Drew Nichols, SCTA, RCPA.
thank you. And then online, let's start with Charles
Charles Smith, Sonoma County Transit.
and then pass it out to SCTA, RCPA staff.
Steph Britt, SCTA, RCPA.
Ross Glendenon, SCTA, RCPA.
Shauna Gauze, SCTA, RCPA.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any public here, so. Okay. All right, approval of the meeting notes from the August 14th meeting. Are there any comments or corrections on the notes?
Yeah, just one thing. I think there was a typo in section 9 for me. It said David Davenport spoke on the Caltrans Bay Area Transit Plan and on the reporting requirements. Mr. Davenport spoke opportunities for transit operators to operate on the state highways. I think that second sentence was supposed to say something else, but I'm just not sure what. I think I mentioned that it was the plan was specific to transit on state right of way. Maybe that's what it was a reference to.
Okay.
But that was it. Otherwise, it looked good to me.
So motion approval with edit.
Yes, a motion to approve with edit.
All right, second.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, great. Well, moving on, Chris will give us an update on the SCTA Comprehensive Transportation Plan update.
Great, thanks, Dana. So there are a few things I want to just provide a brief update on today. So the first is on outreach and engagement. So Ross and I have been working on, the whole planning team actually have been working on getting materials together for the CTP update. So we have a survey online and available now. So there are handouts over here with a QR code and a link. So we have that up in English and we'll have a Spanish translation up soon for that. So we presented that to our board on Monday and they asked if we could potentially get the QR code and materials on buses or at bus stops. So wanted to see if that's a possibility, number one. And, you know, Ross and I can reach out if it is. We'll make some nicer material versus a PowerPoint slide. But so if you're open to that, we'll reach out and get some QR codes up so people can log in and take the survey. So we're also working on planning a virtual town hall for October. We'll be going through what the CTP is, talking about the survey, engagement and outreach, providing a brief update on progress in our CTP goals and talking a little bit about the projects. So moving on to projects. So we're going to be kicking off the update to existing projects in the plan at the October 24th, I believe, TAC meeting. So I'll be sending out Excel spreadsheets with all the details for the projects that are already in the plan for you to review and update. It's a relatively simple spreadsheet, less than 20 fields or so. So looking to turn that around in October and November. And then we'll be issuing a call for new projects for the CTP at the October TAC meeting and looking to wrap that up by the end of December. So yeah, be watching for that. We'll make sure you're all in the loop as well. If you're not at the TAC meeting, I'll send a special notification out to this group as well. And you'll all get the spreadsheets that need to be updated. as well. We're also working on putting together a progress report that digs into some metrics, tracking progress on our CTP goals. So there are a number of those that are transit oriented. One's transit vehicle revenue hours, transit revenue hours, and then transit ridership, both total and per capita. So we'll start with the NTD first to try and get what we can, but Adam Garcia from our team may be reaching out if we can't get what we need from the National Transit Database. So we'll be presenting that to a draft of that report to committees in October, and then taking a presentation to our board in November with those performance metrics. And it includes other things like pavement condition, collision rates, delay, travel times, mo shares, things like that. But just wanted to give you a heads up of what we'll be reporting on the transit side. So that's it for the CTP. So more to come next month.
I know you said this, so the first step is to update the existing projects, and then there's going to be a call for new projects. And what was the timing on that?
October TAC meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all happening at the October TAC meeting. Okay. Great. Okay.
Well, the September TAC meeting will be pushing out the spreadsheets for the existing projects. And then the
Oh, I gotcha.
October.
Okay,
yeah,
that's what I missed.
I may have misspoke.
No, I think it's me. Okay, great. Thanks.
So yeah, looking to wrap up the existing projects by the end of November, and then getting all of the call for projects for the new projects by the end of the year.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions for Chris? All right, so the next item is just an overview of the MASCOTS study. I know you all are very, everyone in this room and online is familiar with this. And so I'm just gonna kind of go through this fairly quickly. And really, this is to provide some context for the next item. And that's why we included it here. This is kind of similar format to the discussion at our board on Monday. So kind of just high level overview. You all have probably seen all these slides a number of times. Essentially, the Marin Sonoma Coordinated Transit Service Plan it came about because travel patterns have changed kind of post-pandemic, and service levels have changed for regional operators. There also has not been any, coordinated regional planning done since SMART started service. And your MASCOTS is going to be a comprehensive structural analysis of transit along the Highway 101 corridor. The purpose is really to improve service efficiency and effectiveness. And we want to make sure that we are identifying the regional markets and where transit could be successful, how well the current service is meeting those markets, taking into consideration equity priority communities, and figuring out what future service should look like, the right mix of different types of services. The approach is really focusing on the regional service along the Highway 101 corridor. And it's not intended to repeat work that's been done on the integrated transit service plan. It is intended to be operator neutral. So really looking at what types of service best serve riders, rather than which agencies should best serve riders for different types of travel. The operation plan will consider costs, facilities, and funding, and the report will, is intended to inform future service planning. We kind of finished phase 1, which was gathering data and listening about current conditions and needs. Over the next couple of months, we'll be working on developing potential solutions and alternatives to address those opportunities. And refining those, and then kind of this winter, be working on documenting impacts of those alternatives, including financial impacts. October is kind of a milestone update where MASCOTS board subcommittee will convene, and there'll be introductory presentations to boards, various boards. Again, in November, kind of some presentations on those preliminary recommendations, and then final recommendations to boards in early 2025. So I'll just pause there. If anybody has comments, yes.
Just more of a question for the group. So the introductory board presentations that we're hoping to target for October. I'm trying to schedule ours right now, and it's a little challenging with some other things going on at council, but I'm just curious whether any other agencies have a date in mind for when they're going to their boards for these at this point, or any other thoughts about timing of their board presentations? I mean, suddenly October is next month, but
Our board
it's
meeting,
coming in hot.
Our board meeting's the 16th if we go in October.
October 16th.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm okay with October or November. Was the time we agreed on here, October?
We said October for introductory presentations. Now Kathleen and or the PMT can let us know if that works.
Kathleen,
I think October or
You there,
November works.
Kathleen?
I am. I'm just
Hi.
here on Zoom.
Is October still when we need to go?
I think it can be October or November.
Okay.
Honestly, I've continued to update the schedule, and it could probably push all the way to December, but December, some boards don't even meet. So I think it's good to get it in before the end of the year. So likely that would be October or November.
For the introductory.
Introductory.
Okay, perfect. That's really helpful because early November is a little easier for Santa Rosa. So good to know.
Yeah.
thank you. All right, any other comments on this item? All right, so moving on to regional funding. We took a very similar item to the SCTA board, kind of as a report out on our transit ad hoc on Monday. So our I'll just back up a little bit. Our transit ad hoc met on September 3rd to discuss the funding, in part the funding formulas that have been discussed through the MASCOTS Finance Subcommittee. We did not receive a very firm recommendation from the ad hoc. Committee members were generally in favor of a dynamic formula that takes into consideration the amount of service that's being provided. And having that, be able to be relevant to what's happening as things change. However, there was not a consensus on whether to make an interim adjustment for the 26 coordinated claim. There was definitely an interest in looking at the funding after the MASCOT study is done. So with the report out to the SCTA RCPA board on Monday, there was a lot of discussion around this. However, we were not asking at that time for a recommendation. So here, essentially, we intend to ask for a recommendation at our board meeting in October and are taking this to committees in advance of that. So essentially, today we are asking this committee to recommend either deferring any changes to the coordinated claim until after the mascot study is complete, or implementing one of the alternatives on an interim basis of 4 years. We are not necessarily asking, if the committee wishes to do a interim solution. We're not asking to identify what solution that is today, but more asking about the option to defer or implement one of the alternatives. And then kind of talking through, I think that, I think this group is pretty aware of the alternatives that we've come up with to date. And the finance subcommittee is continuing to look at other alternatives, which would be more likely to be for a longer term solution that is actually put into place after the mascot study is complete. So the interim solutions that we have come up with to date include a kind of percentage, a fixed percentage that is a decrease from the current 25% that goes to Golden Gate on an interim basis, and or a dynamic formula that mirrors the coordinated claim formula that's used in Marin. So I can definitely go into detail on those, but I think people in this room are familiar with them. So with that, I just like to open it up for discussion on the kind of two options to either defer or implement one of the alternatives on an interim basis for 4 years.
Well, I can jump in first. So Santa Rosa's policymakers have been pretty clear that they would like to see an interim step taken, with the idea that I think everyone's in agreement that a longer term formula should really wait for the outcome of mascots, but they've been very clear that they would like to see something happen in the short term. So, that would be what I would bring forward as well in my role in the T-TAC. I guess a question I would ask is, do we have time for further discussion of what that interim solution would be? I would say where we are in our conversation in Santa Rosa and all the meetings we've had, I would lean towards the fixed percentage, because I think we're not quite there yet with a dynamic formula. I think ultimately with the longer term solution, we want to be in a dynamic formula, but I just think that there's more work. There's, the finance committee is still its work around that. So I think jumping right to like the Marin formula or a specific approach like right now is a little too much too soon. But I wouldn't mind having a little bit more discussion if we could around the fixed percentage and what that is, and if we have the opportunity to do that with the timing. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think we do have time to continue that discussion. And we actually do have one more transit TAC meeting before our next board meeting. It's very close to it, so anything that's going to our board will already be out. But if there is a more specific recommendation that this committee wants to make, we have another opportunity to do that. And then there are also several meetings, I think, but for mascots between now and then.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can you explain where that 4 years came from? That seems like a long time, longer than the mascots.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it came from one, not wanting to go through another 6-month-long discussion too soon, and the idea that once the mascot study is complete, it will take some time to implement. Kind of looking at how, with the kind of local bus operator plan that was completed this summer, you know, there's a number of steps that still need to be taken before any of that is implemented, and we anticipate that it may be the same situation with the mascot study. I think that we can work with the language if there's an interest in that and say, you know, review and revise within 4 years. If it seems like there's, you know, an opportunity and it makes sense to make a revision before that, you know, sooner than 4 years.
Petaluma, similar to Santa Rosa, would be in favor of doing a modified version of it now, but we recognize that the mascot study is still ongoing. So that's temporary one. My understanding of the discussion at the political level is it wasn't fully resolved yet until we have resolution with the mascot study, I think around February or so. Generally, the approach we prefer is more the dynamic Marin type model, albeit even with that, with a few tweaks. That would be our preferred approach, but we're open to kind of the different scenarios as well. Even some of the things like the crew ups or percent cap adjustments, as was being discussed recently, we're amenable to all those options as well. But that would be our approach to it.
Yeah.
I'll say that Golden Gate's preference is to wait until the findings of mascots are out, especially with a 4-year timeline for something that's interim. I mean, that suggests implementation of the mascots at a much later date than we originally anticipated, which is fine, but that wasn't our original understanding. But making an adjustment now is just too soon. Because otherwise we'll have some sort of funding shortfall for our service in Sonoma County.
Rather than make a 4-year decision now, Dana, is it possible to do a decision for a shorter period, like a year or two? I know it's never great to revisit it, but it seems it's still a bit in transition.
I think that the committee can certainly make that recommendation if, yeah, and I think that, I might defer to James if, you know, if we may even make the decision on exactly what that language says, like at a later time. Yeah, I think that would work. Okay.
Well, I think it's no surprise that Sonoma County Transit is also in favor of fixed percentage. And so I put a lot of work into putting that together, and we understand that it's not perfect. And so we're open to, you know, certainly I agree that 4 years sounds too long. So as an interim solution, we had 1 or 2 years.
And so is Sonoma County Transit in favor of a interim, doing an interim solution rather than deferring?
Right, with the fixed percentage.
I mean, if that's the general consensus, is the fixed percentage that most people have, then we can live with that. I guess it then becomes a question of what the percentage is exactly. If the percentages are what they are now, or they're in the different amounts,
Right,
of course.
yeah, that's,
You're not looking for input on the formula right now, right?
no, no, we're not. I mean, I think that we can certainly discuss it, but, okay. And there's time to discuss it, but yeah, we don't necessarily need to make any decisions on that today. Or we're not looking for a decision on that today. But yes, that's correct. There, I mean, there is a range of options within a fixed percentage.
Yeah, I mean, the fixed percentage cap seems okay. The details about living adjustments to funds to specify percentage of amounts, things like that. We would need more information on that because the whole point of what's happening here is that we have a dynamic situation. Sort of a shakeup of who's providing service in the North Bay. At least that's what we want to be open to through the MASCOTS study. And so I don't want these formulas to be limiting us in terms of fair allocation of funds. But I don't, defer versus dynamic. Either one is okay, but I do think 4 years is probably too long.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd also be good with a shorter time period. I agree. I mean, I understand the reasons for the 4 years, but especially in light of this conversation, I think making that shorter, keeping our momentum with MASCOTS implementation, and then understanding that this whole dynamic formula conversation is really tied to that. I think that's a really good point. So this is an action item. Do you need us to make like an actual motion, or are we more giving you feedback today? I'm just trying, what do you
Yeah,
need from us?
it is an action item. And really, we want to be able to report to our board on what was decided at the committees when we go back. Yeah, and any nuances can be included in that, right? If there's a recommendation for a shorter term basis for interim, or and certainly the details of which way votes are going can be included in that discussion.
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily get to a consensus recommendation right here today, but I'll put something out there for discussion just to get the ball rolling. So and yeah, we can keep discussing, but at least from local bus operators, I think we're hearing interim step, less than 4 years, even down to 1 or 2 for further discussion, but and fixed percentage with some more discussion about what that looks like and the basis for that. That's what I move as our recommendation. Please discuss.
I agree with that. If that's enough guidance for you, Dana. I don't know if we're gonna wrestle down the fixed percent amount right now, and it seems a bit presumptuous if we're doing that before the process plays out.
Yeah,
It's a-
that's
it
the
becomes a
finance
Political
subcommittee.
discussion, really. So it would be a bit awkward if we were to come forward with that strong recommendation now as well.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I agree with Rachel on all the different points.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think a caveat for my motion is the finance committee is still meeting. If something comes forward in the time frame we need that has consensus, great, like so much the better, right? So I definitely don't want the T-TAC to be in the position of getting ahead of the process that SCTA has laid out and that all the operators are participating in. So that's the big caveat for sure.
So I don't know, we need more discussion, or if I should second. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, that was a very like rambling motion. That was a motion. Interim, I move that we recommend an interim step, reduce the years that it would be in place. I don't know if someone can add to the motion and see if you want to make a recommendation, but less than 4 years is what I put on the table.
I would say 1 to 2 myself.
Okay, we can do 1 to 2 years. And that we further discuss a fixed percentage to be used during that 1 to 2 year period. As the method.
Yeah, and then kind of, I don't know, we can work it in, wait for feedback from the finance subcommittee of any changes, or that complicates it too much.
I think we need the finance subcommittee to weigh in.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then I would second that.
So I have a motion from Sonoma County Transit and a second from Petaluma Transit.
That was from City Bus.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Motion from City Bus and a second from Petaluma Transit.
Does that give SCTA what it needs, do you feel? For now? Okay,
Yeah, just for the good of the order,
okay.
I guess let's do a roll call vote. I could do it, by agency, unless you want to do it, Drew.
Let's start with Sonoma County Transit,
Yes.
Santa Rosa City Bus.
Yes.
Petaluma Transit,
Yes,
Smart,
Yes.
and Golden Gate Transit.
No.
All right, well, that it passes as a recommendation. That this recommendation will be documented in an item that's going to the Transit Paratransit Coordinating Committee because they do have purview over the coordinated claim. And then will be documented in our next action at our board. Actually, it will also go to our Citizens Advisory Committee, so. Yeah, thanks for all the discussion on that, and will be more to come. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is transit integration updates. In terms of the local bus operator, Sonoma County bus operator integration work, our board did approve an agreement with the Trillium Optibus for the second phase of the website work on Monday. So looking forward to getting that moving forward. I don't know if I have any other substantial updates since we met last, but I'll open it up if there's anything anybody wants to add.
Just on the general topic of coordination, I don't know if this is the right coordination item. But we did take the regional mapping and wayfinding program prototype to the city council yesterday. It was well received. Not surprisingly, people are really excited. So continue to work with MTC. I think El Cerrito del Norte installation is kind of top priority with some timing there, but they're still talking about later, this fall to have the signs go up in Santa Rosa. So very exciting. Emily, I don't know if you have anything to add to that from the smart side, but just wanted to give that report from council. Good to go.
Sorry, quick question. Are they still planning to install it while the transit mall is?
It's possible
Really
that that timing will work out. I don't know that we know for sure at this point. And, because I think when I talked to Matt about it, and I don't think Matt is on, no, but end of October was a possibility, and that would be around the time we would be looking to finish the transit mall roadbed project if everything goes as planned. So it's possible that we could still get that done before we move back in, but not for sure.
Okay, sorry to jump in.
It's a good question. That's
I had nothing to add, other than to say we've come up with another level of bureaucracy that they have to go through, so I'm hoping it won't delay installation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, more forms. But yeah, we're gonna do it. It's all right.
And,
I'm sure we will too, by the way. So
Mhm.
anyway, sorry.
Relatedly there's kind of a side pilot project I think I mentioned last month, but the QR codes for real-time arrival information or real-time departure information will be signage for Route 580, which is the Marin to East Bay route. Those should be produced in late October. Yeah, and it should be ready for installation around that time. So roughly the same timeline, it sounds like, for Santa Rosa. My impression is that El Cerrito will be installed by that point in time.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's, it's dynamic.
It's all dynamic. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, well, we kind of started jumping into the regional meetings report out, I think, so.
Yeah,
let's-
sorry about
let's-
that.
It's fine. Let's go ahead and continue there if there's other
Mhm.
kind of regional meetings to report out on or regional work. No.
We have an in-person workshop for Transit 2050 Plus on the 26th. I believe it's the same day as the general manager's meeting for MASCOTS. And it'll be a 5-hour session at MTC. So luckily they feed us so that that way as many planners go in as leave at the end of the day.
Have you lost something?
This process has been brutal.
And then Petaluma hosted a pop-up event for Transit 2050 Plus on August 27th. And staff from Petaluma Transit and Smart was there to assist contractor and NTC staff.
And there was a session at the San Rafael Farmers Market on the, was it the 29th, whatever that Thursday was. Yeah, the 29th. And so I was there representing transit agencies along with whoever from MPC. There's so many regional meetings. I'm trying to think what else. Too many. Transfer plan. My impression is that's wrapping up soon.
Oh, I don't think so.
For San Rafael.
Yeah.
Transit Center, as well as El Cerrito del Norte. And then they'll be entering a new phase. Sounds like the decision will be made in November for the next round of transit centers. My impression is that it won't be another location in the North Bay. Well, technically it would be the North Bay, but not Marin or Sonoma. That's my impression. Sounds like Vallejo might be on the short list.
Great. Right, well, let's jump into transit operator updates. And if you think of any other regional things, feel free to throw it in.
I can just give a quick heads up on the TOC program.
Great.
So there'll be more information coming soon, but MTC is going to be issuing a call for projects associated with the transit oriented community program later this fall. So there are two buckets that may be of interest. One's focused on planning grants and, helping jurisdictions implement policy to make sure they're in compliance. So that's one piece. So you may be hearing from your local planners around your stations about that one. And then there's a capital grant program that's going to be coming out as well that's focused on the station areas, and it includes the eligible activities are listed as parking management components, capital delivery of mobility hub elements, which is kind of a broad category, charging infrastructure, and then active transportation design development that leads to project delivery. And I think the assumption there is that it provides access to the stations. So that's all we know right now. So there'll be an official call later, coming up later. So once that comes out, we can make sure this group is aware of the call. Great.
Thank you. All right, Jared, do you want to kick us off with transit operator updates?
Yeah, sure. So City Petaluma has been doing some repaving work on Maria Drive that most recently was impacting East Side Transit Center. That's all now complete. So as of this morning, everything is back open at East Side Transit Center and reinstalled. So that project is done. And hopefully nice new concrete or asphalts and concrete on Maria Drive in various parts for that, make it a lot smoother for everyone. Our microtransit service is coming along well. It is called Luma Go and will be launching officially September 30th. So we've been doing a lot of outreach events for that. We were at the Petaluma Craft Beer Festival this past weekend promoting it. And then we'll be doing a few other events, including the Antique Fair the day before launch on September 29th, and doing all the logistics of getting that set up with websites, promotional materials, all those kind of things that go into it. Somewhat a technical thing, but we recently changed over with our driver checks from a paper-based DVI form to an electronic one called Transit Check. If anyone has any questions on that, happy to provide more. Thus far, we've been really happy with the system overall. It's been a big improvement for us.
I'm sorry, it's an electronic.
Yeah, electronic DVI.
It's called what?
What's that?
What was it called?
Transit Check.
Transit check.
Yeah. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll get you more info. We've been having fleet issues with an aging bus fleet. Most of the agencies I talk with these days are often in that boat. So we're doing a few engine rebuilds right now in some of the older buses while we wait for our electric ones to arrive in February, which is still coming along. We just got notice that we got approved for our HVIP electric bus rebates, 138,000 per bus. So that's good news. And then facility electrification, we're pretty much at 100% design level now, hoping to have that bid out in a month or two to do the capital facility upgrades, installing the chargers, installing switchgear, so everything's ready to go by the time those buses arrive in February. And then the city will be doing an ice rink in Petaluma in the latter parts of December to early January near the fairgrounds. And that area will be served both by existing service Route 11 and by the Luma Go service. So more info on that, stay tuned, but we're very excited about that as well. And that is it. I don't see Maria online. Okay,
Yeah.
yep, that's it.
Great, thank you. All right, David, please update on Golden Gate.
Yes, so quick update on ridership. Looking at July numbers, there was one fewer weekday in 2024 versus 2023. So bridge traffic was down slightly, down about 2%, which roughly corresponds with that variation. So we're not sweating bullets on that yet. The good news is even with one fewer weekday, our bus ridership was up for the month of July compared to the previous year's July, as was ferry ridership. Ferry, looking at the numbers now, for the month of July, it's the highest ridership we've had for the month of any month since the pandemic. And then it's the same for bus. So, but just barely. So that's good to see, you know, even though not all months are created equally, it looks nice in the spreadsheet. And then on August 11th, we had our service change implementation, which included an additional round trip on Route 172 to and from Sonoma County. Uptake on the afternoon trips actually been pretty good, so we're pretty happy with that. That particular time slot in the morning has always been a weak performer, and that continues to be the case. And there's just something about the traffic pattern between Sonoma and San Francisco at that time of the morning where there's a huge shift, I think, in the travel time. So people prefer to either go slightly earlier or just go later because they're going to be stuck in it anyway. So, you know, it is what it is, but that's been a pretty consistent pattern for us when we've had a trip at that time, even pre-pandemic. So more of the same there. But it is nice to have that extra trip back into the schedule that we had to pull out back in January due to staffing issues. Beyond that, just a kind of few minor points of business. I think Rachel, I had sent an agreement for you just to look at and see what you think. It's for Sonoma County Transit and Petaluma Transit, this is for the interagency transfers where we're going to switch to Clipper only when Clipper 2.0 comes online. We're happy to sign separately or all four of us together. Whatever works, since I know it's basically the same policy on your guys' end.
And let me chat with you after we did the chat after the last meeting too. Well, I had a conversation with Dennis and Kathleen after the last GM meeting, just to want to make sure that Marin, Sonoma, that we're all, you know, on the same page. So I think you've got that well in hand, but
yes. Anyway,
let's just grab a minute again. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. It's, you know, I don't know if we're sticking with going to the board in October. Because of the holidays, our November board meeting is kind of earlier in the month. So we might just push it back depending. But I think we do need to take something to our board before the end of the year, just because of some other changes in the Clipper program. Let's see. So beyond that, then just a couple minor things, for Sonoma County Transit. I think our real estate manager will be reaching out to you, Stephen. I think she reached out to Brian, but didn't hear back. Just on restroom access at Copeland Street. I'm actually not sure between your two agencies, right? Sonoma County Transit built a facility and do you still operate it? Or is it a city street?
They're just portable. Yeah,
Right.
so we pay for them.
Okay, yeah, and
And so we allow the transit drivers to use them, so we could do the same for Golden Gate.
okay, great. Yeah, so that'll be the ask on
We're
that.
just talking the portable loos overall.
Yeah, I think the idea is we do have some long haul service that doesn't go through San Rafael Transit Center, and if something happens along the way, our drivers would like to have access to that facility. And I'll leave it to our real estate manager to work it out with you guys, of course. But I just wanted to make sure that was the right person.
Yeah.
That it'll be, okay, I think she'll be emailing you today. And then beyond that, I also reached out to you, Stephen, but I think we mentioned last month that we're trying to figure out a real-time departure signage solution at the toll plaza, since there's not really much sun there most of the year. Although if you read the news articles about our Carl the Fog being on the endangered species list, maybe it won't be an issue at some point, but we're looking at some sort of battery type solution if we can.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what your experience is, and we can talk offline about that, of course.
Information.
Yeah. Appreciate it. I think that's it. That's it for us.
Right. No, for smart. Not too much new for smart. Ridership's been really strong, especially since we started this youth and seniors thing. We had so many seniors riding over the summer. We saw a really big boost in midday trips, which is really fascinating. Youth back to school, they've really been using the train. Lots of interesting little short trips, people sending, I know people who live in Rohnert Park and put their kids on the train to go to Katati for school. And just sort of, I think it being free, right? You saw this too with making your service free for kids, just changes the psychology around using the train, even though it wasn't expensive before. And I've heard friends are sending their kids to soccer practice, just all sorts of random things people weren't using the train for. So that was nice. We had over 90,000 people in August, which is a record for SMART. We're working on our strategic plan. We're holding a public workshop in a couple weeks on September 25th. It's going to be in the Arts Center, which is in the old historic depot at Petaluma, drop-in style. Let's see what else I have to mention. I think that's it for SMART. We don't have any, I don't think the ferry's making changes in October, so we don't have any more service changes planned for the fall. Thanks. All right, Sonoma County Transit.
Yeah, not too much from us either, other than we're just making progress on our electric charging station in the bus yard, which should be wrapping it up within the next couple months. So we'll have 19 charging stations. And then, I don't have any ridership information for you. Sorry, I'm definitely up from previous year. Again, I don't know the percentage, but it's in the right trajectory. That's it.
Great. Thank you.
All right, for city bus, yeah, the temporary transit mall is going great. That transition happened super smoothly. So really appreciate Sonoma County, Golden Gate, operations staff, operators did a great job with that adjustment. We had a few people pull up in the wrong place and they figured it out, went around the block, and everyone's got it down now. So that's going really well. So super pleased about that. And Gelati was digging by 7 a.m. last Tuesday. So more power to them. It's a slow go to pull out that concrete out. It's, you can go up on the parking garage and look down on it. If you happen to be downtown, it's worth doing. It's pretty wild.
I'm sorry, are they taking the concrete out and then redoing the base?
Yeah.
So they're doing
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. So it's It is, yeah, it's a lot to pull out but I was talking to one of our operators and yeah, there's these certain parts of the transit mall that if you drive over them, they would rock. Yeah. So definitely needed. So hopefully we won't do it again for like 30 years, but it's needed. We had a really good July and this is partially because we had a really bad last July, but we were up 34% in July. But yeah, we were super down the previous July. So I think it's a combination of being up overall, but also, bouncing back from whatever was going on last July. And we are going to have some schedule adjustments in mid-October. Matt will be getting y'all information. I don't think anything really significant, but we did a run cut in the spring that had some unintended consequences with some of the travel patterns. We're having some real on-time performance issues in parts of the system. So this is a chance to true some of that up so that we can get our on-time percentage back. Because we've got some real challenges right now. So more to come on that. We'll keep you posted.
Rachel, what's your estimated closure or opening date for the transit mall?
Well, it's a 2-month project. We're saying, 2 to 3 months, under promise, over deliver, but we should be done by the end of October ideally, but that could go into November. And we're trying to do, to the extent we can, some just refresh in the transit mall while we're out as well. So there's some other things we want to get done that could slightly affect the return date, but it's knock wood, it's a pretty simple project overall. So hopefully no surprises.
Is there gonna be the opportunity to go and put our initials and handwriting?
Sure, I'll find out about that. Maybe, I don't know. There are gonna be some nice additions. We're gonna have big orange paint sections at the entrances to the transit mall, try to really delineate it a little bit more as a transit space and, crosswalks, upgrades and whatnot. So there are a few things. So yeah, maybe we'll get you a handprint right in the middle of it. See what I can do, Stephen.
Thanks. Kathleen?
Oh, I think she's signed
She's
up.
not on your word. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Can't really see that far. All right, then. Let's move on to other, I can give a quick update on the bike share program. We are, Drop has submitted encroachment permit applications to a number of cities and a number of entities have signed off on agreements. So, and there's, still a number that are in progress. So it's all coming together day by day. There's, one more piece checked off. And we are, let's see, the warehouse is being set up. The lease is in place. The warehouse is in Roner Park and that's being set up for delivery of the bikes, which have been sitting in Southern California and expect to be shipped up fairly soon. The website is in its, not published yet, but fully built out. And yeah, we're looking at launch kind of in the next 3 to 6 weeks. And it may be somewhat staggered, kind of depending on if certain cities are lagging behind others in terms of approvals. But we're really pushing to try to get it all kind of to happen at once. So so stay tuned.
One other minor thing I forgot to mention, but Santa Rosa and Petaluma are doing a joint procurement for scheduling software that just closed this week. So we're currently in the process of reviewing and scoring that. So.
All right. Any other business comments or announcements?
I have one, Dana.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Shauna.
So staff wanted to make the T-TAC members aware that we're bringing a policy amendment for Go Sonoma to the Technical Advisory Committee this month on the 26th. So it's about project amendments so that we can talk about what is required if in the competitive program a project sponsor needs to have a scope change or funding change after the project has been evaluated and awarded. Oh, and by awarded, I mean programmed. not awarded as in construction. We were unable to get it done in time for this meeting, so we wanted to make sure that the members were aware that if you wanted to be part of the discussion, you could be part of the TAC meeting on the 26th.
Great. Thank you, Shauna.
Sure.
All right, any other announcements? All right, I'm gonna adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,